Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
Hello and welcome to Centre Stage, the South African Theatre Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Peter Bates.
And I'm your other host, Alistair King-Daniels, and today we're talking about film, and we have a filmmaker with us in studio today, Mr.
Hi, I'm Charles Baster.
Hello, Charles. Thank you for coming. So let's get right into it. Who are you? What do you do?
Okay, well, like I said, I'm Charles Baster. I'm a filmmaker and, I say filmmaker because I kind of do a little bit of everything in the film industry. I'm currently a content producer for an ad company. But yeah, I mainly would like to write and direct my own films, and that's kind of what I'm working on in my spare time.
Cool. So did you go to I mean, I do know the answer, but elaborate. Your education, your what drove you as well to do film?
Okay, well, I think if you're asking what drove me to film, I'll start there. It actually started very early on. I was very lucky to make my decision what I want to do in life very early on. It was around 2001 when I was 7 years old, and I watched Lord of the Rings, and I was hooked. And the same year, Harry Potter came out, loved it. So, yeah, a fantasy kind of... I became a fantasy fanatic, if I can put it that way. And after school, I came to Cape Town with the intention to study film, and I studied film and television production at City Varsity for 3 years. I majored in producing and directing and script writing, and during that time, I made a few short films, and I was the only student in our third year ever to make a feature film, which didn't get finished, but oh well.
And I was a part of.
Yes, Alistair was a part of it, and I feel guilty to this day that it never got finished, but don't regret it for one moment. It does, yeah.
Yeah. So, did you always want to be a writer and director, or was it was like one of them, what's the word, superfluous?
Well, I'm going to kind of contradict myself now here, because before I decided officially I'm going to be a filmmaker, believe it or not, I was going into acting.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't ask me why I thought that would be cool, but no. I know you guys are actors. I respect you guys, but I can't do what you do. Sorry, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Did you always want to be a director and writer, or was one of them more important to you than the other?
Directing is more important to me. But it's actually not fair to say that, because I believe to be able to direct, you need to be able to tell a story and write a story. Not necessarily good in actual writing, but actually telling a story. You need to have that kind of talent, I guess. Skill. Thank you.
So almost what you're saying is like writing came as sort of a necessity.
Yeah, definitely. Because, like, say, if you want to tell a story, you're probably going to have to put it down on paper at some stage. You're going to have to take that out. You're not going to remember everything. So if you want to tell this particular story, you want to direct a film, you're going to have to start writing it, because no one else is going to write it for you. Unless you hire someone, oh, by the way, I've got this draft of this kind of story. Can you develop it for me? Then you can do that, but that costs money and it takes some more time. And we don't always have that luxury.
Yeah, so you got to do it yourself, right?
Yeah, most of the time, that's what I do.
Brilliant. So, what's your project? What are you working on now?
Well, currently I am working on 3 projects. Mm-hmm. One is just a regular little short film, which I hope to make soon. It's just like a kind of sci-fi genre thingy. Then there are 2 series that I'm working on. Currently, a fantasy series, which I don't have a title for yet.
Untitled?
Yes, it's untitled. I'm very bad with titles. Usually, that's why it will usually just have one word, someone's name or whatever, because I can't think of anything else. And then I'm working on a travel series as well called Out There.
Like a documentary series sort of thing?
It's more... You can probably say, it's documentary style, but more of just a travel YouTube series, to be honest.
Okay.
But focusing specifically on Africa and not all the way out there right now. it starts South Africa, works its way up.
What do you think about the, I mean, you mentioned YouTube, and that just got me on a thought pattern here. What do you think about the role of YouTube has had in creating filmmakers? Because before YouTube was around, there was, and smartphones and all that, but mostly YouTube as a platform to put your work out there. Before that was around, there wasn't, there was no way to...
YouTube's introduced a whole lot of new opportunities to people who otherwise wouldn't have had it. But how has that affected, I mean, you work in the industry, how's it changed things?
It constantly changes every day because of YouTube. It's so accessible these days to become a filmmaker and just put yourself out there. There's so much competition, and it's good and it's bad. Bad thing being there is so much competition, but it's good. It's very expensive to get your content out there, and YouTube is such a brilliant platform to just put yourself out there, and people can have a look at it, comment on it, you can learn from it. So it's got its good and its bad traits, but overall I think it's a absolute brilliant platform to be on if you can make it on it.
I've seen, interestingly, some short series and stuff that's released exclusively on YouTube. So it's almost like a web series. Is that quite popular? Is that growing in popularity?
Yeah, especially now with stuff like Netflix coming out. And Amazon and HBO having their own platforms as well. YouTube is now doing that same thing. That's why you can get stuff like YouTube Premium, where YouTube pays you to produce content only for YouTube, nothing else. It doesn't come out anywhere else.
Is that big in South Africa, though, in Cape Town?
It's growing, definitely, yeah. Okay.
So people are actually, so there are like South African productions that are coming out on YouTube. What is it? YouTube Premium, I think you call it?
There is. And surprisingly, it's not just YouTube, Netflix as well. There's a lot of South African things going on that too.
And Showmax as well.
But Showmax is South African, so...
Yeah, but they're doing like Showmax originals and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes.
So they're sort of following the same line of thought. But I see what you mean about international sort of platforms.
You should say if I'm not answering your questions correctly.
No,
correctly. It's your
discussion. So you've got a script and you've got this drive to make a movie. What's next? How do you
What's your process? Yeah, what's your process? How do you get it out there?
Okay, so usually I get an idea and that's where it starts. Yeah. No, you get the general idea and then you start developing this. Okay, how is this going to work? What's the character like? What's his backstory? You intimately start getting to know your characters and the world that they live in. That's what I do. That's why it takes such a long time for me to develop something and actually move forward to it and actually getting into the production stage of it. I also have a bad habit because I'm creating this thing from scratch. I want to create everything from scratch. So I very rarely hire props. I make everything myself.
I can attest to that.
Yes, you can. The only thing I'll probably hire is wardrobe because that's just too expensive to make. But once I've got an idea, often people will go into the actual writing stage. I work the other way around. I get an idea, and because I am a visual person and I want to make a visual story in the end of the day, you want it on screen, I actually storyboard my entire film before I start writing the script. Don't ask me why. I just know, like I said, I know the overall story that I'm going with. You start drawing the frames and you create your story around that. Okay, they're here. Okay, now they're going to go there, and you develop your script around that actual thing. Is it a good way of going about it? I don't know, but that's what works for me. And then obviously from there you go into production, you shoot it, and then post-production starts, which is a whole other nightmare. Yeah.
What's it like? I mean, I sort of know as an actor point of view, but I've never directed been on set and been the director. What's it like with all that power? What's it like having this vision and trying to get it made?
It's extremely satisfying, but it's also very disappointing because you can never get what you actually have in your head, which sucks, but that's part of the game. I absolutely love it, but that actual feeling and adrenaline on set of actually making something is amazing. Every time you're there, you tell yourself, what the hell am I doing? Why am I here? why do I do this to myself? It's just, but every time you just ask yourself, is there somewhere else I want to be? And the answer for me, at least, is always no. And I know the day that actually stops, the day I ask myself, do I want to be somewhere else rather than on the set? I know, well, if the answer is yes, I can be somewhere else, then I know I need to stop. I shouldn't be a filmmaker anymore.
That's poignant. We've got you on. We talk a lot about theatre. So Alistair and I, our experiences in theatre. What can you do in film that you can't do in theatre? Why is film so different?
Okay, no one's asked me that before. I love theatre. I used to. When I did dabble in acting and everything, that's what I dabbled in, was theatre. It's brilliant. I think the amount of emotion and, or not really emotion, but yeah, I'll go with that. The amount of emotion that you can get out of an actual film piece, and how do I put this? Sorry, guys. But yeah, what you can get out of a film, I think you can get so much more than what you can get on stage. Because stage, everything happens in the moment, which is great. It's awesome. It creates very awesome moments in terms of improvisation and just very funny little things that happen. Where in film, it's something that you try and perfect. You try and replicate real life. And I think people are drawn to that more in terms of emotion and just all the senses. People, I think, I don't know, you get to know a character in a film more than in a stage production. Because stage production, you've got a little backstory, you get your program as well, and you only have a set amount of time with most stage productions, same with films, but most stage productions to introduce these characters. Where with film, you can take your time a little bit more, especially if you go into series. Then you can take your time more to develop this character, to develop this world and everything. I don't know, does that answer your question? Why but theatre is brilliant. I love theatre, and I constantly go to theatres. It's awesome.
So we've got this idea that theatre is ephemeral because it only exists in the performance. Okay,
exactly.
Whereas film is something that you can you can watch later and rewatch and that. Do you think? And it's interesting that you said about series that you develop characters over a series, and do you find that you are moving towards? Are you more interested in producing series, or?
At the moment, yes, because I can develop a thing more over a longer period of time. And I think the film industry overall is moving that way because, once again, this is where a feature film, for instance, has the same, I won't say problem, but it faces the same difficulties as a full-on stage production. You only have a limited amount of time that you can put it in the theatre on screen. Where a series, you do one episode, okay, but I want to continue with the story in the next episode or within a few episodes. And your limitations are a lot less in series, for instance, than a movie.
I suppose you've got more time to build a following as well, right? Because you're seeing people, the same people are seeing your stuff every week, and they build a relationship with the character as well.
Yeah, and they can see how everything grows, which I think an audience absolutely loves.
And they keep coming back.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why a lot of feature films now as well, like look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
They're all sequels.
All of them are sequels. Everything. And they do it brilliantly. Everything falls into place brilliantly. I think no one has ever done it to the extent that they have. But there's a reason why people go back. They're interested in it, and they see it grow, and they just want to develop it more and more.
So do you think, if you look at movies that, let's say, we're talking about big commercial movies now that are on circuit, right? A lot of those are sequels and or third or fourth in a series.
Yes.
Is the market for original films shrinking, the commercial market?
I want to say no, but I think it is. Personally, I think it is, which is extremely sad because there's so many films like that actually just get put to the side. And that's a problem, I think, with Hollywood at the moment. They want those sequels. They want these big blockbusters to come out where then the individual little films, like, for instance, Shape of Water, gets pushed aside. It was released as an art film. It didn't release worldwide either. It was a brilliant film. It deserved the best picture that it got at the Oscars, but so many people haven't seen it. It's very sad, and it's a brilliant movie.
Sorry. So we're talking about like the commercialization of movies, of film, of art, okay? And then, but the pinnacle, the Academy Award, was given to a movie that is not like so thoroughly commercial, right? So...
But then again, the Academy is just a bunch of critics that watch the stuff. The audience doesn't vote for it.
Well, there we go. You see, there's that thing as well. So who's controlling the way that it's going. But what about the scene in Cape Town? How many opportunities are there for a filmmaker to get people to watch their film?
That's a very difficult question. To be honest, I can't give you a definitive answer. But I think it is easier here, for instance, than in Hollywood or whatever, because, obviously it's Hollywood. I don't know if I'm just rambling on.
That's an interesting point, though, yeah.
Because a lot of... what's happening, especially in the film industry in Cape Town, a lot of international productions are coming here, giving us the opportunity to work on it, which also gives us the opportunity to meet actual people that can get you further in the industry worldwide rather than just in South Africa, saying, oh, well, I see you can do this. Would you like to get onto this production as well? And then you start branching off into different areas in the world. That's an advantage that Cape Town has. But
that's people leaving Cape Town and,
True.
and working.
That still makes you a South African filmmaker, though.
Okay, I don't know, because to me a South African filmmaker is a person who makes films in South Africa about South Africans, with elements of our culture. It's not necessarily to be in a faraway land. And I was born in South Africa, but I'm making movies in Hollywood now. I don't know if that's a South African filmmaker. So you're saying people, international productions are coming here, and our people can work on those productions. But what are there?
That doesn't make it a South African film, though.
Yes, no, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
But are there opportunities in South Africa for South Africans to produce South African films? You see what I'm saying?
Yes, definitely.
That's a different aspect of things.
Yes, definitely. Sorry.
No, but it's an interesting point, because you're highlighting that a lot of people are actually working on international productions.
Exactly.
And they're not doing that homegrown stuff. So, what does the homegrown scene look like?
It's growing rapidly, but it's still smaller than what we would want, to be honest. But then again, like I say, it's growing rapidly because people are doing their own content. It comes back to stuff like YouTube, or actually, we were talking earlier outside, not here, about film festivals. That's usually where it goes. It doesn't go onto the mainstream thing. It doesn't go into cinema. It goes to those little things, which is unfortunate. That is something I think that they really need to work on, though. Getting stuff actually into theaters, getting bums on seats. And actually watching it like you would any other Hollywood film.
But it is changing, though. We were talking in a few episodes ago about the sort of idea of South African films, and we sort of touched on the idea that there are more South African films being created in South Africa, and, as you say, are being put into cinemas like New Metro and things like that. What's that one about? I think it's Ellen Plaatjes.
Ellen Plaatjes, yeah.
Yeah, there was a movie that was a South African movie about this woman, and it was put on in New Metro, I think. I don't know if it was Dirk Kinnickle as well, but it was put on in one of these cinemas. And there are other examples of South African movies slowly becoming more present in the cinema. So my sort of question is, do you think there will be a time, do you think we're moving towards what we were talking about then, a sort of like South African Hollywood scene in South Africa?
Zollywood kind of thing.
Zollywood.
I'm waiting for that to happen, because we are the third I think last time I checked, we're the third or fourth biggest film industry in the world. No, fourth or fifth. Sorry, not third. Because you get Hollywood, then you get Nollywood. And no, not Nollywood, Bollywood, and then Nollywood.
I hope we get a better name than that, because those are silly names.
I think we're number 4, which is probably going to be Zollywood or Zanziwood, or I don't know. But your question was? Sorry.
Yeah. Do you think we'll?
I think we'll definitely get a status like that at some stage. My only problem is with this whole thing. You're producing more things and they're going into theaters here, but that's also where it stays. You're only telling a story for South Africans.
Yeah.
Why do you just want to tell a story for one group of people? You want everyone to understand your story. But that's also a problem with the world. People need to try and understand other cultures, other people's stories. Basically, what I'm trying to say is we would love to get South Africa on the same platform as America or the UK, for instance, where anyone in the world can watch a UK story and they'll understand it, or an American story, they'll understand it. Where in South Africa, we're just not there yet because people don't understand us.
I find a lot, at least in my experience, of people who are trying to, they imitate Hollywood movies.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, rather than being good on their own merits.
Yes.
Do you notice that as well?
Definitely.
Is that a problem, or is it,
Well, there's a certain standard going on all the time. Film works like a primary school playground. There's phases that everyone goes through, and everyone just wants to do that one thing.
Yes.
Like, I remember when the High School Musical stuff came out years ago, South Africa went nuts. Because not only did they like this, the High School Musical thing, the next thing, every second Afrikaans film, or every Afrikaans film that came out for the next 3 years was musicals. So yeah, they definitely do that, and it is a problem because you're not, like you say, you're not using your own intuition, you're not using your own creativity, you're just replicating what someone else is doing. But then again, that's also very hard not to do because everything has been done before. Well, most of the time, we're still waiting to discover the next thing, but it feels like it's almost like writing a story. It's very difficult to say, oh, you didn't draw in from this or this or this, because basically every story almost has been told.
Told before, yeah, of course. Interesting. And then again, like you said earlier, it's about bums on seats. So it's about what's going to get the people watching the film, right? Because it's got to be commercially viable to a certain extent as well.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because if we look at how many independent cinemas there are in Cape Town,
yeah,
there's one, right? Which
that we know of.
which we have a very. Do you know anything else? Any beyond that? I mean, there's the Labia, obviously.
Yeah, the Labia is there, but that's also shame. I don't know, shame. Sorry, Labia. It's true what you say. There is only one, or maybe two. We've got New Metro and then Ster-Kinekor.
But those are big commercial chains, right? So
exactly.
Small independent
The only thing that
cinemas.
I know of that people are doing is stuff, these pop-up cinemas, which are brilliant. They kind of bring back the nostalgia of a drive-in, just without a car. You go and sit on the grass and you watch a movie. It'll be great if we can start actually putting new films onto those kind of screens, getting people to do that, rather than going, let's watch Psycho. Let's watch Psycho, let's have Braveheart, these things that came out 20 years ago. Brilliant films, but we want to see new things.
I think it's a different market for that kind of thing because you know it's like a pleasant evening in the park and that. But to see you see, and I think this is why the internet is so flexible. You don't need a physical location. Nobody has to leave the house. You can watch it on your phone wherever you are. And that's why it's really so powerful. But again, you kind of don't you lose a bit of the magic?
Definitely. There's one thing in a cinema, for instance, and I know it's very stupid. I remember distinctly going to the cinema like 20 odd years ago or whatever. I won't say how old I am. But anyway, and that of the film starting.
Oh,
yes.
I absolutely miss that.
And just the size of the screen. I mean, that's what makes it so magical to me. It's like immersive.
The size of the screen is getting so much better, bigger and better. I like Scene Extreme or IMAX. The bigger the better. I absolutely love it. And sound is becoming great in film. So technology is definitely making it so much nicer. Only problem is it's getting more expensive. So there's one problem. I know it's going completely off topic now, but cinema is killing itself.
Yeah, because it's too expensive to go to a freaking cinema.
My girlfriend and I, we went to go and see Secret Life of Pets 2 on Wednesday, when it's supposed to be, I think, 30 or 40% off at New Metro. It's still, for a normal 2D movie, 80 Rand, and that's 30% off. If you go and see something in Scene Extreme at New Metro, it costs you 190 Rand for a normal ticket. That's ridiculous. Oh,
Yeah.
no, sorry, that's for 40x. I think it's 150 for Scene Extreme. Most people don't just have that
Yeah,
money to
that's a lot
spend
of money,
on
yeah.
a 2-hour trip to the movie. And then popcorn is also ridiculous. So you never spend under 200-300 rand if you go as two people to the movies. And
People just don't have that kind of money.
exactly, and then they see, oh well, I can stream this or I can just download. Downloading is bad. People don't download, putting us out of business. But
But they do it though. That's the thing, because
that's the thing.
the other option is, well, don't watch it because it costs too much.
exactly, either they're not going to watch it or they're going to download it, and the filmmaker then loses out on money.
So streaming is the future then.
Streaming is definitely the future. That's why things like Netflix is so big at the moment, because what you're doing essentially is streaming, and they're introducing stuff like you can download it, and then you download it when you have Wi-Fi, and
you
then
watch it later on,
yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So do you think it's easier to build a? I suppose when you're releasing your work on a streaming platform, you can kind of integrate it with social media and stuff as well. So you can build an audience that way. Is that? I don't know. Like a couple of episodes ago, we had. What's her name? Estelle, and her character is, what's the character's name?
Oh, at Christine the
At Christine is the name of the character, but she's got her own like social media account and
All
stuff.
right.
So it's kind of like this crossover between real life and fiction.
All right, that's cool. Yeah. Kind of like a Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus kind of thing, if you think about it.
Yeah, kind of something like that. And the character has her own Instagram account.
Yes.
I don't actually know what I'm asking you, but yeah, it's an
No,
interesting
that's a
idea.
very
So,
interesting thing, yeah.
it's a digital age, so everything's integrated, right?
Yeah, I think that's actually quite a cool way of doing that.
Marketing.
Exactly, it's marketing. You creating this character, but now this character exists in the real world as well.
Yes.
Which is brilliant. I haven't even thought of that. Thank you. Thank you. What? No, at what?
At Christine.
At Christine. There we go.
yeah.
Not Christelle, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I actually wanted to get back to your filmmaking. You mentioned stuff like what was it, Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. So you're science fiction, right, or fantasy?
Science fiction, but mainly fantasy.
Fantasy. Okay.
Yeah, South Africa has, like I said, I watched Lord of the Rings, and what a lot of people don't know, South Africa was actually one of the top locations to shoot Lord of the Rings at. And to shoot Lord of the Rings, yeah, but anyway.
Yeah.
And shoot it at, okay, it doesn't work. But so I firmly believe, I've got that love for it. Everyone tries the same thing in South Africa. It's either a musical, or it's an action, or it's a romance.
Because that's what gets bums on seats, right?
That is what gets bums on seats, but where is everything going? We've got Game of Thrones, we've got Vikings, we've got this Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
All these things are becoming sci-fi. People want more action-packed things to break away from reality, I think. And I think South Africa is missing out on an opportunity, because we've got brilliant landscapes, we've got people to do the work, we've got the talent, but no one wants to take the risk.
Well, I'm thinking of three. And now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm speaking in correction here. We've had District 9.
Yes.
That was the film, right? Chappie,
yes.
and I want to say Elysium, but I don't know why.
Only because it's the same director. So he's a
yes,
South
of course,
African
okay.
director.
Yes, Neil Blomkamp, yeah.
But it was produced by a Hollywood company.
A Hollywood company. Well,
District 9 was produced by, I think it was, I know the main executive producer on it was actually Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
So directed by a South African filmmaker, but not a South
Not
African.
necessarily South African films.
Yeah.
What about Chappie? Would you class that as a South African film?
Yeah, I kind of will, because it was made predominantly by South Africans and South African actors. Yeah, it was produced by an international company, but South African companies were also involved. South Africa doesn't own the rights for it. We don't see a lot of that money, but yeah, I will classify it as a shared film.
Yeah.
I guess.
Also, what you're saying though is that you can only say, you can think of three.
Yeah, I think of
that's
three, and they're all by the same guy, and they're all within the past couple of years.
Sci-fi.
And they're all well, that's the thing. So it's sci-fi. So my mind was going, okay, so we've got these three sci-fi movies. We've already talked about sci-fi. Does sci-fi struggle in South Africa? I don't know how relevant the themes of sci-fi are to a South African audience.
True, yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it depends on
so I think it
your
is a
audience,
struggle.
yeah.
So Chappie was an interesting one because, the title of the movie, it's everyone knows what Chappies are, right?
Yeah.
So, and
I think only South Africans will.
but that's the idea. Everyone
Exactly,
in South
yeah.
Africa knows. But to try and link that to a larger South African audience, that is tough, right?
Yeah, definitely, yes. Fair enough, yeah.
Okay, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah. the fact is we can only think of one guy, 3 movies. So,
Exactly,
yeah.
and I would like, that's my own goal. In the end, I want to make movies that I would like to watch as well.
Yes,
And
of course.
I think that's what writers do. Someone like, I'll go back to Tolkien. The reason why Tolkien started writing stuff like Lord of the Rings and he created his own mythology is because England didn't have a mythology. Even something like King Arthur, that was borrowed from the French.
Yes.
It's not British. So he wanted to create something that's unique to that and something that he would like to read. And that is kind of what most filmmakers, I think, actually also would like to do. They make something that they themselves would like to watch as well. There's no point in making a movie and you're like, I'll never watch that.
No, I wouldn't watch a movie like
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
And so I am a fantasy fanatic, and that's what I would like to do. And I would like to introduce that more to South Africa because we've got everything we need, I think. But
Yeah, we have a rich heritage of oral traditions and stories and legends and stuff that we can build on. So it's kind of
Definitely.
like, I think the audience is primed to hear these fantastic stories.
exactly.
Right?
And I think you need to go out there and you need to do it.
You're giving me a pep talk now.
Giving you a pep talk.
Yeah, anyway.
Because I think that's the end of
Yeah,
our
we're going to
show.
wrap it up there.
All
Thanks
right.
a lot for joining us, Charles. We've
Thank
heard
you
some
so much.
fantastic things from you about the industry and filmmaking. So
I
thank you
was
for
just
being here.
babbling on, but thank you.
It's been really good. It's been enlightening.
This was fun, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you have any social media links, they'll be in the description of this episode. And
I need to go create some now.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks for joining us, and audience, thank you so much for listening to Centre Stage, the South African theatre podcast with Alistair King and Daniels and Peter Bates.
Cool.
thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye. King Media Productions Centre Stage is a South African film and theatre podcast hosted by Alistair King and Daniels and Peter Bates and produced with the generous assistance of Blended Podcasts, brought to you by Blended Audio.